Yes, sir.
So I said yesterday, so what is our task today? So if we have a database, so if we have some kind of database, okay, so then how can I, interact? So how can I interact with my application, okay, to database? So now the thing is, for example, your application may be written in Python, okay. So and you have selected a database, say MySQL. Okay. And then how you connect this MySQL and Python program. Okay. So this is the task. So today we are going to connect a Python program with MySQL. Okay. So let me, before starting this particular program, I'll just demonstrate and then, I'll just explain one by one. Okay. So first I'll give the demonstration. Okay. So then I'll explain. Okay. See here I have a some kind of consumer data. Okay, so what is my demonstration here is this. See in database we have the consumer information. Okay, so consumer data. Say for example, very simple thing I am considering. Say number of units. Okay, so number of units energy consumed and the corresponding bill amount. Okay, that corresponding bill amount. So for each consumer, okay, for each consumer, I have in database. Okay, so that I will be connecting to a Python program. So Python program, what this Python program does? So this Python program will take the number of units and this will return the electricity bill, calculated electricity bill to the database. So I can see fetching and updating. So everything I can see in this particular example. So this is the simple example what I'm taking. So consumer data, say electric consumer data, and they'll be using an electrical energy, and the utility will be storing this particular information. Okay, so how many number of units energy consumed, and the bill amount they will calculate and they will store it in a system. Okay, and let us use Python for that particular task. Okay, so that is very simple, and we are trying to use say MySQL, okay, as a database, okay, as a database to store this consumer data. So now this is basically the MySQL database. Say for example, I'm just storing the number of units as say some kind of 30 units, okay, for consumer 1, and say 40 units for consumer 2. Okay, so I am just giving 00 value for other consumer apply. So and I just stored this particular value in database. Okay, so 30 units and 40 units for second consumer. Okay, so this is what I stored. And then what I'll do, uh, you know, uh, say for example, I'll just run one simple application. Okay, so so I'll just run this application. It's not necessary to learn now itself, just for understanding this particular case study. This is just some case study. Don't worry about this. Okay, can you see here? So now what I entered the number of units. So this particular application is taking that particular number of units here. Okay. So, and what I have to do, I need to calculate the energy bill. Okay. So when I run this particular, application, that application is displaying energy number of units for each customer. And it is taking from this particular database. Okay. So whatever you are seeing, the same thing it is taking here. Okay, and so now what is the role of Python? What Python program should do? Say basically it has to calculate the what is that the energy bill, correct? So it has to calculate the energy bill. So let me start the uh, Jupyter lab. So now what I'll do, I'll just write a program to take this particular number of units and calculate the bill amount and update this particular table. So this is one task what I'll consider. So for that I'll return one program. So I'll run this program. When I run this program, it will connect to the database and it will calculate the bill amount. Okay, so depending upon the per unit cost. Now here I consider the unit price as 4. So 4 into 30 and 4 into 40. So that is 120 and 160 for each consumer. So this is calculated. And then this program will update that particular bill value in the database. Okay, so now if you refresh this particular application, now can you see here that bill amount came here? Okay, so that bill amount came in this particular application. Similarly, when you try to refresh this particular table, the same thing will be updated in this database as well. Okay, so now everybody understood the problem. The problem is we have some data in the database, and some things we need to calculate from the outside. We may have to do some complex operation, so that's why we are incorporating programming language, and we are taking some data from the database, and then we are doing some data analytics work, and then we are changing the database content. Okay, so using some programming language or some application. Okay, so this is what we are trying to do in this particular case. So everybody understood this particular case. So I just demonstrated the problem. So now I'll just go one by one. Okay, so how we have to do and what are the requirements, each and everything I'll explain now. Any questions? Any questions at this particular point? Okay. Okay, so now what we will do? Okay, so first thing, we have a Python. Okay, so to do this particular problem, okay, you need Python. Okay, so Python is already installed, correct? Python is already installed, and then you need MySQL. Okay, SQL. So for that, what you have to do? So you just have to go to MySQL page. Just type MySQL in Google. You will go to MySQL web page. Okay, so there what you have to do, you just have to click on downloads. Okay, so you just click on downloads. Okay, and then what you have to download, you just have to download the full version you take. Okay, not the enterprise version. Okay, so you just have to download community version, free version. Okay, so here when you click on the community version, okay, so just click on the download community version. And see here different ways will be there. Okay, community server, community installer for Windows. So appropriately you choose. Say for example, I just use installer. I say Microsoft installer. Then what you have to install, you have to download the complete package. You have to download the complete package like this. So say for example 450 mega is there now, so you can download this and you can install. Okay, so so when you download and if you install, so all these things will be a part of your installation. So it will install server. Okay, it will install workbench. Okay, so all these tools. I mean, a server is the core thing. Okay, MySQL server. MySQL is actually the database. And then addition to that, it will install additional tools like cluster, router, cell, and workbench. Workbench is the front end, okay, which you can use to work with the database, MySQL database. So MySQL workbench. Okay, so normally every whatever database you use, some generic front ends will be there. Okay, so you may have to use generic front end. So for MySQL workbench is very popular. Okay, so after installation of this particular software, okay, so now while installing, okay, while installing, what you have to do in MySQL, in between the host name will be localhost. Okay, so localhost, and then in default, when you are installing, it will ask port number. If you want to change port number, you can change port number. Otherwise, 3307 will be the port number for your MySQL server. Okay, localhost is the server name, or the IP address is 127.0.0.1. Okay, so this is the IP address and this is the host name. Okay, so for if you install in your machine, port number is always 3307. Okay, you can change. You can change if you want. If you already installed, use this particular port, you can give some other name, and it will ask for username and password. Okay, so user, normally the admin user is always root. Okay, root user, and then you just have to set password. Okay, so any password you have to set. Okay, so any password you have to set. So these are the things it will ask when you are installing the MySQL server. Okay, so this information you have to store it in some notepad. Okay, so this is required. So once you set up this particular database, so if you have these details, you can connect to this particular MySQL from any database. Okay, so from any database you can install. So I'm not just showing because when you are installing, okay, it will ask all these things. You just give and install and just note down all these details in some notepad. Okay, so this is done. So that means after installation, okay, so all these things will be available for you. And then what you have to do, okay, so then after installation, okay, so you just have to open, open MySQL Workbench. Okay, so MySQL Workbench will come like this. Okay, MySQL Workbench. You just click on MySQL Workbench, and you won't get any this like this. So now what you have to do, you just have to create and connect to a database or manage connections. So you can select any one. So click on connect to a database. So now here you have to give the details. Okay, whatever when you are installing the MySQL software. So the local host. Okay, so the port number is 3307. Okay, and user name is root admin user, and then password you have to give whatever password you are given are there, and then you just have to press OK. Okay, so when you press OK, then one connection item will be created like this, and you can double click on that and you can get inside the database. So now if you if you see this kind of window, that means your database is connecting with the this particular front end called MySQL workbench, MySQL workbench. Okay, so now you opened your database using the workbench. Other ways are also there. Even using command prompt also you can work with the database. Okay, but workbench is very pretty easy to modify and to manage the database. Yeah. So Chandras is asking XAMPP. Okay. So whether the XAMPP is good. So actually, I'll tell you, Chandras, XAMPP is completely four things are packed in that. Okay. So XAMPP, and in Linux it is called LAMP. Correct? LAMP. So it is Microsoft, this one, and this, say, and this one is basically MySQL, and this is PHP, and this is MySQL, and A stands for, what is A stands for? A stands for one programming language, one database, and one more thing is what A stands for? What is LAMP? Apache server, yeah, Apache. So Apache, this is a server and this is the database and this is a programming. So all together they make one package or Docker or some, pack. And if you install that particular thing, all the things will be available there itself. Okay, but better to install MySQL separately. Yeah, you can work with XAMPP. That is for good for the beginners. It is good, and uh, it comes now all the things will come together, but separately installing would be good, because when you are working on server, actual server, you normally install separately, right? So that's why. Okay, so yeah, fine, you can go for that, but here we are specifically we are dealing with MySQL, so that's why. Okay, so this is MySQL installed, and a workbench is ready. No, Amit, no need to install the account. No need of account. It will ask whether you want to create an account, and just if you come down at the end, there is one button. Just skip, creation of the account. If you click on that particular option, okay, you no need to, register. If you register, okay, fine. Otherwise, you no need to register. Just you can install community version. Fine. Yeah, when you're putting some questions, put it in the general chat box. So let others also see what kind of questions you are asking. Okay. So now our database is ready. Okay. So what we have to do? So after installation of database, so this now assume that you are not created any database. So creation of that particular database, okay, how the database should be in our database, that is a challenging one. So now the thing is, I told you the application. So we know the application. So depending upon the application, you will be creating the database. So you will be sitting with the team, and they will say, okay, I have a electrical consumer data. Okay, so that is my database in MySQL. So then deep dive, discussion is required when you are creating this particular database. Okay, and many data, things you may have to create in the MySQL. So now we know the application. Now depending upon application, okay, consumer data means what are the things it will be present in the database. So now you see, if it is a consumer detail, okay, it may be the RR number of that particular, say, now I'm just going for database design, you see. Okay, so when you are designing a database, okay, so what are the things you will consider? Say, you will, informally you will work, on this particular design. Say, for example, electrical consumer data means you will be having RR number, okay, and then you will be having customer name, okay, and you will be having, yeah, address of that particular, consumer, and then maybe other things like personal details, you know and many things will come whenever you are creating a consumer data. And these are all, it will be taken a type of consumer, yeah, correct, type of consumer, whether different categories are there na, LT1 2A, something like that, residential or commercial or industrial type of consumer. And there will be, you see, this is one table. Okay, so this is one table. That means if you visualize, so it will be something like this. So RR number, okay, so name. So this will be some kind of table kind of arrangement. Okay, So table kind of arrangement, and this may be 1 2 3 A4 6 something like that, alphanumeric number maybe. So it may be something like name. Okay, so name, and so address will be having some kind of multi-line content. So like this. So say for example, type of consumer. Okay, so type of consumer, what kind of consumer. So whether you are giving some this kind of notation LTT1 EA C1 something like this. So now you see, you will build this particular table, and then you will sit with the developer and you will say, okay, so this is the unique name. This RR number is a unique name, and this should be alphanumeric. Okay, alphanumeric. So it can be varchar item, and the name should be again string variable, and address also multi-line. Okay, so string of four. Okay, 4 lines, and type of consumers maybe string. Okay, it is called varchar in there. And if you have any date and time, okay, when the register date and time, so maybe okay, like this you will keep on expanding your table. Okay, so uh, this will be one table, and correspondingly what happens, so you will say, okay, this is static table, and so there will be one more thing. So RR number, and along with that, you'll be having number of units, correct? Number of units, one column. Okay, and date time. Okay, so date time. You understood, na? So date and timestamp, and from date. Okay, so from date and date timestamp, and then to from and to date stamp. You understood, na? Date time. See, like this. This is a dynamic data. So whenever you consume electrical energy every month, so this table you may have to update. Okay, so this I mean table you may have to update. You understood, na? Yeah, yeah. Type of consumer, yeah. So yeah, that also may come here, and because you know the RR number. Okay, so you see, that's what you should not be, your database should not be redundant. See, because this RR number knows this type of consumer, so this RR number, it should not repeat the same column. Okay, so redundancy should not be there. So in that way, you have to design the database. So here in this particular table, type of consumer, it is not required, because once I know the RR number, I can take the type of consumer from the previous table. Okay, so that is how you design. And say for example, I may have to need one more table, like type of consumer. Okay, type of consumer, and unit cost maybe. This can be any you know uh, table. So for, okay, so other LT2 AC2, maybe 6 rupees, like this. So what happens? So you may have to design this particular table, and this also be present like this. If you think of the number of tables required in the backend for this particular application, so it goes on like this. If you think for actual application, okay, so it you required lot of table like this. Okay, maybe who is the operator, who is worked on this particular record. Okay, and many things will be comes into consideration. So now we have not done any financial table. Okay, so RR number, when he made a payment. Okay, so what is his reference number of the payment? Okay, how much amount he paid? That can also be one table. You understood, na? So lot of table will come in the back end. Okay, so if you think of some relational data, so in the big backend, lot of tables, this kind of tables will come into picture, and all these things will be some kind of linked table. Okay, everything has a interconnection. So, for example, if I have a some kind of one more table, say finance table, maybe RR number, and bill amount. Okay, so bill amount and date and time paid. Say for example, if you want to fill this particular table, then you see you have to take the number of units from the second table. Okay, so from here you need to take the number of units for this particular user. Okay, and then so from the table one, you need to take the type of consumer. Then you have to refer to the third table. So you see how you go. This RR number, you take the number of unit. Then you take the type of consumer. Then you take that particular unit price, and then you will calculate. So then you will multiply this and this. Okay, so these two things you will multiply, then that updated value you will be putting in the database. You see, so this kind of interconnection, okay, so the relations will be there in between in a table. Okay, so this kind of informal work is the first step in database design. You got some idea about database design? So uh, so any clarity is required? So everybody understood what is database design? I told you, so people at the beginning, they'll spend a lot of time in creating a database. Okay, so this is called a database schema. Okay, so database design. Okay, or they'll say database schema design. Okay, so schema means complete how the table everything should come. They will create this one. Okay, and whatever the front end or application demands, so that entire thing should be supported by this particular database. And redundancy one should avoid. Okay, so you have to make some kind of flexibility and all those things. So tomorrow somebody may ask, so give me the total bill collected. Then what you have to do, just give the information in this particular table. Okay, so bill table is there, na? Just give the access to them, let them display the total bill, let them calculate in their application. So all those things are possible. Yeah, I'll come to that. I'll come to that. So I told you, if you want to study a database, okay, so complete database, okay, so you required at least 6 months, to study the database. Say for example, uh, database, how that stores, okay, and understanding different types of queries and how to join two different tables, okay, and understanding different keys, okay, and there are variety of queries are there. So it requires 6 months time to understand this particular database thing. But yeah, I'll just try to show you how you can combine. So you have just try to see whatever you are say in words, there will be a corresponding query. Say for example, what is the RR number of a person called Rahul? You understood? Now I just said some statement. For that, corresponding technical query will be there. Okay. Now I'll say what is the type of consumer for the person who is having RR number 123A46. Okay, so for that query will be there. And what is the electricity bill of a person who consumed 40 units of energy? For that query will be there. So at that particular query, you need to merge two table and you have to extract that particular information. So writing a query, effective query is also challenging. So that part, normally you have to give a support to the developer and you have to implement that particular query and you have to give, and the developer will put that query in their application and they will take the data. So that is how it works. Okay. So I think what I'm trying to give you some intuition. So tomorrow when you go to software company or anywhere, say for example, even if you do some projects, say you should coin this word. Okay, say database design. So first step is basically not writing any program and dealing with hard-coded values. Instead of that, you just design a database schema for your project and keep your data there. So you should know what is database design, what exactly you do there. And also you just have to design what is the unique key, which is the primary key, and which is the foreign key, and all those things you will decide. So which should not be null, okay, which should be unique value, and all those things we have to give when we are designing a database. In fact, when the client provides you a document, development document or requirement document, all these things will be provided to you. Okay, what kind of data, I mean, content they have. For that, you need to decide a database. Is that clear? Anyway, I'll be giving this video to you and you can refer this. Okay, and shall I proceed next? Because I'll complete this next session, try to practice this one. Okay, so I just want to complete this particular task. Is that fine? So next session, I think you just practice this particular program. So shall I go to the next part? MySQL I installed, and then I created a database schema. So these two parts are done. So the next part, is what? Let me create this particular. Now this is very big. Schema is very complex, and to create all these things, I may require a day. So that's why what I'll do, I'll create a simple, a simple schema. Okay. So let me show you what schema I'm creating. So simple one. So maybe this kind of things, customer ID. Okay, customer ID and the number of units. Okay, so now I am just calling that as energy units. Okay, and then next one is energy bill. Okay, energy bill. And this is the table what I am creating. So I am not creating any complex things. I am just creating a simple table. Customer ID. Okay, so customer ID and energy units and energy bill. Okay, so this is the simple thing what I am creating. So for that, what I had to do, just see here, I'll just work in Workbench. So Workbench is some application. I'm just dealing with the database. So now here what you have to do, so here one option is there, create schema. Say for example, right click there, right click on the space here and click on create schema. So when you create schema, it will ask for some word. So now what I'll do here, consumer data. Okay, so this is the consumer, or I'll give something like, consumer table. Okay, consumer table, that is the table name I give. And I then what I'll do, otherwise what I'll do, the database, no, it's a schema, right? Consumers schema. Okay, so consumers underscore schema. So this is the name what I given. So then I'll just apply. Now you can see on the left hand side there is one schema is created. This is the main database. So under this you can create many tables. Now I just expanded that and I'm just clicking on the item called table. When I right click on the tables, okay, there is one menu called create table. When I click on that create table, here it is asking for a table name. Now I'm just giving the table name as consumers. Okay, so this is the table name what I'm giving, and then what are the information I have? I am just giving consumer ID. Okay, and that is the primary key and integer type of variable, and energy units, number of units. Okay, energy units, and energy units, now it can be a double. Okay, it cannot be it is a double. Yeah, number of unit 2.5 also I can give. No, that's why. Okay, energy bill. Okay, energy bill is a bill amount. So hence it is better to give the double float variable. Okay. So this is what I gave, and the primary key in this particular table is the consumer ID, and primary key is basically the column the a column which is unique, okay, having unique elements. Okay, so that is using that particular value, you can point to any specific record. So that is basically called a primary key in database. Okay, remember primary key. Okay, so now I'm just I just clicked on apply, and then I clicked on the apply here. Now you see, even from the command prompt or from any application, you can create dynamic table using this particular command. This is the query. Okay, create a table having these columns with primary key, consumer ID as a primary key. So this is the query, create query. Query means, yeah, so it's kind of a statement. Okay, so when you apply this query will run and table will be created in the backend. So now if I expand this, can you see here one table is created. So table creation is done, and when you right click and there is one item called select rows, or you can take the insert, you can create a query. But what I'm doing, I'm just creating a this one. Say for example, this query is there now. Select star from the consumer table. Okay, consumer table. Even you can give a simple table name like this. Okay, so when you run this particular table, and you will see all the data present in this particular database. Okay, say for example, now nothing is there. Now I'll just even you can run insert query. Now instead of giving a value there, what I'll do, I'll just take the insert statement. So now can you see here, insert statement I have taken. Now consumer ID 1, okay, consumer ID 1, number of units maybe for 30, and the energy bill is say 0. In default, I'm just keeping 0. Now you can read this particular statement. Insert to this consumer table, okay, having these variables, and the values what you have to put in that particular table is 130, 0. Okay, this is what the statement I am running. So when I select and run, okay, so that query it will execute. Okay, so that query will be executed. And then, so then what you have to do, so you just have to run this SQL query, and sorry, okay, yeah, so this should be, yeah, it is a consumer schema. Okay, so it is yeah, I'm just extracting the other so schema name is consumer schema. When you run this particular query, can you see here one record is inserted. So now what is this? So this is basically insert query. Okay, so insert into, so there are four queries are there. Okay, there are four queries are there. One is select query. Okay, select query, and the second one is insert query. Okay, so insert command in database, insert command, and the third one is update command, and the fourth one is delete command. Okay, so this is very popularly used. Okay, select means retrieve data. Insert, okay, inserted command. Update means changing any element in that particular table, and delete and deleting any record. Okay, or these are the popular statement what we use in database. So now I just created. So if you want to create one more table, one more record, then consumer number 2, number of units may be 55, and default energy bill value may be 0. Now what I'll do, I'll just run this particular query again. Okay, and then I will run the select query. Okay, now can you see here that is displaying. So now what happens, these queries will be setting in the application. Okay, so they will construct the dynamic query passing some variables to this particular query, and they will execute, and the corresponding data will come to them. Okay, so now say for example, instead of star means everything. So now what I can give, I can extract only energy units. Okay, so energy units from that particular table. So when I run this one, you can see only energy units are coming. Okay, if you want both, I can take like energy bill also I want to see. So in this way you can customize this particular query and you can extract the data, okay, from the database. So these queries, one should learn how to write this query: select query, insert query, update query, and delete query. So if you learn all these things, that means a database. Okay, database. So what they expect in the software company, so you should know the databases, and you should know how to work on some databases like select query, insert query, update query, and delete query. You should practice. So then they will appreciate. They require that kind of skills. Okay, so now you can see here. So I inserted two records. Okay, when I give star, okay, I can extract all the elements. Okay, so entire data will come to you. Okay, so different types of query you can run. Okay, so not only select and insert. Okay, so update query also you can run. So now I'll just delete this one, and then what I'll do, I'll just take one different query. So query may be something like maybe update query. So update query means update this consumer table. Okay, so update this consumer table, and then what you have to update. So you have to update, say, this expression. So consumer ID is 1. Okay, wherever consumer ID is 1. Okay, so then what you have to do, set the energy units. Earlier it was somewhere 30 or some kind of 40. Now I'll make 80 units. Okay, 80 units, and the energy bill, yeah, I can give any value. You can see here. So how to understand this particular query? Update the consumer table and set. Okay, update energy units as 80 and energy bill as 0, and where consumer ID is 1. So when you run this particular query, and then you can see there the record number 1, the number of units become 80 now. Okay, so that means the value got changed. That value got changed, and so now any value you can set. So you can modify. So if you run it again, then updated value will come here. Can you see here? 85 came here. That means what you have to understand at this particular point in database. Okay, so you can construct this kind of query for any kind of complex operation. Any kind of complex operation, you can create a query. Okay, so now you can imagine. Okay, so if you are logging into a KP, say example, Christ University KP, can you imagine how much data, what kind of query they have written? So they will, for this particular register number, take this marks, your personal detail, everything it will fetch from the database, and it will bring it to the application end. Can you imagine now? So how they will do that? They will write a query. Okay, they will write this kind of query, select queries. Okay, to bring that particular data to your application after connecting to the database. Is that you understood what the queries? What is the meaning of queries? Now, since we are all new to the database, I'm just giving some overview of this particular query. Okay, so now the thing is, if you practice, then you will get to know this particular query. I told learning query itself will take a lot of time. Okay, so lot of books are there to write a different types of queries. Okay, and how effectively you have to write a query. The latency should be less. Na time latency should be less. So that's why you have different types of queries are available. So one should learn that. Okay. Any questions on this? So you have 4 types of this one. They'll call it as crude operation. Crude create. Create is also there, but I'm not telling. But crude operation. So crude operation I'm doing. Okay, in database using MySQL workbench. You understood? Okay, using MySQL workbench, I am doing some operations on the database. Got it? I'm doing some operation on the database, but this will not be there, right? So this workbench will not be there. So only for my work, I'm just using this workbench. But ultimately, your database should connect to application. Not this workbench is just for the developer or support team or somebody who just want to tune database and just to work with. So just remember this workbench used for only admin. Okay, so actually your database should connect with the uh, program or application. Okay, so that how we can do that. See is basically what we have to learn. Okay, so in database, just let me show you the program and I'll just explain. Okay, now you can imagine. So there will be some select query. Okay, and okay, I'm just running that one. Okay, so now I think I should explain this uh, program. Yeah, what I will do, uh, I will explain this particular program. Okay, so now you see, I'm importing MySQL library. Okay, MySQL connector, and then what I'm doing. So here, this statement. So here I'm just connecting with my database. Okay, so connecting with my database. For that, what I'm doing, so instead of creating the credentials, okay, instead of giving credential inside this particular program, what I'm doing, I'm just keeping all my credential, okay, outside, okay, in separate file. Okay, so localhost and my database schema name is basically consumer schema. Okay, so schema name is consumer schema, localhost, root, my password is my root, and 3308 is the port number, and table name is consumer. Okay, and unit price, I'm just taking it as 4 now currently. Now, so if you take this particular database and so now this particular statement will establish a connection between your database using your credentials. All these database details, it will try to make a connection with the database. Okay. So, and it will return an object called mydb. Okay. This one, it will return one object. That object is basically the connection object. Okay, so connection object, and then what you will do, you will create a cursor and you will point to that particular database, and then what you are doing after pointing, you are executing some queries. Okay, you are executing some queries. So here you see select star from consumer. Okay, so select star count of star. So let me run this particular query. What happens? Let us see. So when I run this, so can you see what is the return value? Return value is 2. It is just counting the number of record in that particular database 2. Okay. So yeah. So now this is basically what it is doing. So now what I'm doing, so I just want to take the number of records in that particular database, and just I have to iterate that particular number of times, and I have to calculate the bill amount, and that bill amount I need to update to the database. So that is my objective. So in that sense, I written this particular program, and this part is basically taking the consumer IDs and it is creating an array, and for each consumer ID, okay, for each consumer IDs, I'm updating I'm just taking the energy units and I'm updating the energy bill value. I'm just calculating the energy bill value using the unit price, which is present in the configuration file. And then, okay, I'm executing that particular update query. When I executed this update query, then the bill amount will be updated in the same table. Okay, so I'm just running this program. Now it is a different value. And if you see this particular table, and the new updated values will come here. Okay, because this is different database. Okay, so I'll take another 2 minutes. So database connection is very, yeah, I think I'm just running in different place. Number of record 2, yeah, 85 and 55, and the database I'm connecting is correct only. Database, okay, consumer schema, database, this is correct. Yeah, anyway, okay. Yeah. So now this should display the changed value in the database. The changed value will come here. Okay, so the changed value will come here. And maybe next class, so let us study this connection in detail. Okay, with some example. Okay, now what you have to do in the next class. So since I've taken complete 1 hour, so one install, okay, install MySQL. This is the task. Okay, and the second point is, now created some schema, create a schema, and the third point is execute queries. Okay, crude queries. Okay, so this is what you have to do. So just try this one and be ready and demonstrate to me. I'll ask in the next class. Okay, so install MySQL, create one schema. Any one good application you take in electrical and create a schema and execute crude queries, and just demonstrate to me. I'll ask where you have to upload this particular thing. Okay, so thank you all. So I think we'll take a break, and next class we will continue. Not today. Next hour I'll give complete attendance, and we'll meet tomorrow then. Okay. So if you have any questions, you can stay back. Otherwise, you can take a leave. Thank you.